Welcome to the joy of coding.
Hello, and welcome to episode 37 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. We're going to be hacking on Firefox again today, as is our usual pattern. Hopefully the sunlight isn't going to be an issue today. I just realized that we had some nice cloud cover here in Toronto, but we're suddenly some nice weather is bleeding in, and so I might get a blast of sunlight in my face in just a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to my screen so you can see what's going on, and then hello, there we go. I have a feeling I have a feeling my mic wasn't working there for a second because I wasn't seeing any input there. Yeah, there we go. They lost audio. Is it better now? Mike Taylor says that they lost audio after the screen switch, but now I think I've fixed it. Is it? Are we? How about now? How about now? Are we better? I'm seeing little blips, and I'm gonna play some sounds.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, come on. I've... Hold up. I gotta make sure the sound's working or else this... Okay, we got a yes. We got a thumbs up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Alright, we got sounds working. That's fantastic. We're going to... What was I doing? Right, I wanted to talk quickly about what we were doing last week. We were working on these kapows on application shutdown. We were trying to get rid of our kapow usage. And hey, we've got some patches up for review. I've actually gone through a couple of review iterations already. Oh yeah. And now we're just waiting on some more review feedback. So that's good. If you're interested in seeing where that bug went, check out my notes. Check out the bug. Oh, which reminds me, this agenda here with all these handy dandy links. If you scroll down to the additional links section, there should be a link to this document, so you can click on these links and get to where you need to go. Okay, another update on bug 1227444. That was restore previous session was opening duplicate windows. We had this window of opportunity where you could close Firefox and then restore your old session. It would open two duplicate windows. Fixed that, and I think I wrote a test case for it as well because that was a pretty nasty bug. But it is now fixed. Yes, I wrote a regression test, and it has landed. Hooray! So, what are we doing today? Today, I want to... I've got a whole slew of bugs that we might work on. The first one is kind of similar to this restore previous window bug that we kind of worked out while we were doing review for getting rid of the kapows on window close. And that was, there's this little window of time when you close a window where we're waiting to hear back from all of the browsers that were inside that browser window on what their state was at the time of browser close. Because we only get that information after a couple of seconds. There's this message queue for each browser, and every couple of seconds it sends an update. And when we close the browser, we get the final messages, which was the final state of the browser. And we have this little case where a window could be closed, and so we put it in the session store closed window array. And then we do something we purge our browser history, or we I don't know, choose to forget the closed window because there's a method that you can call in session store to forget a closed window, while we're still waiting for those last messages to come up. And so we can forget, and then when those messages come up, we remember, which is not good because the only thing data loss is not good, but also holding on to data you should have gotten rid of is also not good. So I've written some regression tests to test that behavior. It's pretty fiddly because you have to make sure that you've got the timing right because we've got this async thing happening. But I think I've got it. And so I've got tests for that, and I want to write a patch to fix it for window close. So maybe we'll start there. There are a couple of other things I want to do. If I have a feeling this is going to be pretty fast, maybe we'll see. I've kind of got an experimental patch written that might fix it, but I want to think it through and see if there are better ways of doing it. And then I've got some other things we can work on as well. But I want to close this blind because the sun's starting to move past this cloud. So just give me 1 second. I'm going to play some music. Be right back. Alright, it's a little bit better, but I've got this so there are 2 blinds, and there's this little blade of light right here. I'm sitting in the worst possible position, and I don't know if there's anything I can really do about that. Unfortunately, I really need to get some good natural light. Oh, what if I just do this? There we go. That's a little bit better. So I'm a little bit in shadow, and I've partially covered my screen with part of the window shade. It's a bit hacky. I'll show it to you. I'll take a picture and send it to Twitter, maybe, just to show you how ridiculous and precarious this is. Is that even going to stay? Yes, it'll stay. All right, great. So I have hacked together a solution for the light problem. Oh. Let's move on. So this async tab and window flushing thing. Let's take a look. There we go. So my patch. So I've got some regression tests written. Let me show you how they work. Here they are. Forget async closings. So I've got these 2 helper functions. Because I didn't want to just do the window close case. I wanted to do the tab close case because if we're going to test one, then we should probably test the other. And the tab close case, we're good. Whenever we close a tab and we're still waiting for the flush to come back from the closed browser, if we purge history or if we choose to forget the closed tab, we do the right thing. But I've written test cases for that. But for the window cases, we're still actually failing. And where's my... I've got this experimental patch I was saying that fixed the issue. I'm going to shelve it and rebuild, and then I'll show you the failing tests. So, build. I've also got the Barber of Seville playing in the background. It's adding some intensity. I kind of like it. Okay, so let's run these tests. Boom. Open window, and we have 2 failing tests. We should not have stored the closed window, but we did. And that was after we choose to forget, and that's also after we try to purge the session history. So what are we going to do? We have to kind of understand how the whole closed window thing works, and I know I wrote it, but that doesn't mean I remember. I've kind of forgotten. In a way, this is good. I need to really sort of get this in my brain and maybe spread it around. But when we close a window, we check to see whether or not we should maybe save the closed window, because sometimes the window is worth saving and sometimes it is not. So for example, if the window only has 1 tab in it and that tab's at about blank, we don't save it. Same thing for about new tab and about private browsing and a couple of other places. But there's a little wrinkle to that that sort of feature, which is after the flush, if we've changed that browser, that single browser where I don't know, who knows, we've moved it to a more interesting place that's not about blank or about new tab or about private browsing, then we might change our mind and then stash it into the closed window array. And so we do this maybe save closed window twice. Once when we first close the window, and again after we finish the tab flush. And this is the one that's problematic. We need to make sure that when we maybe save closed window this second time, that we don't actually do it if the window had been forgotten between this call and this call. Because this flush window thing happens asynchronously. Like it depends on a bunch of other messages, and then like a promise gets resolved, and then this all runs like long after the window's gone away. Well, not long, it should be like milliseconds, but like the window is gone and stuff has occurred. And so maybe in this time there's like a small window where we've chosen to forget or purge history. And it's really unlikely. This is a super edge case, but I really want to make sure we get this right, because I'd hate for one of our users to accidentally have their history stick around when it really shouldn't. All right, let's see. So my first thought is anytime we've got window data that we want to, and like this is kind of, let me show you the solution I came up with and then we'll talk about it. So I'm unshelving the stuff. So my solution was to modify maybe save closed window to check this thing called savable windows, which is this weak set in the on the session store object that will hold onto window data that we want to maybe save. Like it might end up in the closed window array, or it might get thrown out. We have no idea. And in between those 2 points where we like first maybe save closed window and the second maybe save closed window, we put the window data in the savable windows set. And then anytime we choose to like forget a closed window or we choose to purge history, we clear out the window data from that set. Then when the second maybe save closed window comes around, we check to make sure that the window data is still in that set. And if it's not, we don't do anything. We don't add it. We don't do anything. We just bail out. That's my first idea. I don't really like adding more state stuff to Session Store. We've already got like a bunch of these things like closed window tabs, closed tabs, crashed browsers, browser epochs, remoteness changing browsers. But you know what? It's not too bad. So maybe savable window data is the right way to go now that I think about it. So if we were to do this, how would I describe it? Savable window data, a set of window data that has the potential to be savable, you know what, to be more precise, savable closed window data. Potential to be saved in the closed windows array for the session. Okay, so there's that. And then savable windows. So here's where we like add the window data. This is in the onClose event handler still. We haven't gone into the promise resolution yet, but this window might be saved in the future. Might be saved. Has the potential to be saved. Closed windows array. Maybe save closed windows gets the final call on that. So now I'm wondering if maybe we should somehow move this savable closed window data thing into maybe save closed window, and I'm trying to figure out how that would work. No, I think that'd be too complicated because we have to call it again in here, and so you've got these two kind of modes for it. One where you want to be able to put things into savable closed window data, and one where you don't. It's not amazing. The fact that we have to maintain state outside is not great. I mean, if you're a functional programmer, you're probably like really not happy about what I'm doing here. Maintaining state's bad, but I can't think of another good way of doing it. But if you can, if you out there can think of a better way of doing what I'm doing, I'd love to hear about it. So we add the window data to this set, and then when we clean up the window is probably when we should remove the window data from the set. Clean up window. Where's cleanup window? Yeah, that's when we remove it. And then over here in maybe save closed window, we check to see whether or not savable closed window data. Make sure we're still session store, and make sure that we haven't chosen to forget this window since okay. We add, now then when we clean up the window we delete it, but we also have to delete it if we choose to forget the closed window. So I had something like that over here, but we're going to do with savable closed window data instead. And then there's another place, and that's when we purge the history on purge session history, where we should just like wipe out the entire set. Now I wonder how this works for closed tabs. When we purge the session history, how do we remember to not save those tabs? Save closed tab data. We check to see if we should save the tab state. And we do it again up here in the final message. And we check to see that closed tabs has the browser permanent key. So do we ever clear out this closed tabs array? Closed tabs is a how do we close tabs? Check it there, we get it there, then we delete things here. Anytime we get the final message, we delete from the closed tab array. And closed tabs is a weak map. So when do we get rid of it? Because there's the Windows closed tabs and then there's our closed tabs set. or weak map, which is very confusing. And I don't know if we ever actually... We delete and remove closed tab data. So is it possible that, like, we call this somehow? Forget closed tab? No. When we purge, how do we choose to forget? Purge session history. We clear out the open windows. Clear out the closed windows. We clear the restoring windows. But we don't clear out the tabs. So I feel like there should be a potentially failing test here. Like what? Closings. This one here, when we notify observers that we're purging session history. How come this works? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it... Okay, I have a couple things I want to do here. Have I finished the work that I wanted to do for savable windows? I think so. So let's build this. And then let us run the tests and see if they pass now. And if they do, then maybe we can investigate this tab close thing and see how it works. Yay, passing tests. That's good. That's what we wanted. Now, how does this work with the tabs closing? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify the test file and get rid of a bunch of tests we don't care about, and that's this one. And I really wish there was an easier way to disable tests instead of commenting them out. Like if there was a way to just like, I don't know. I filed a bug about that. So the question is, how come whenever we send this notification, here, should I write this down? Question, how come whenever we send browser purge session history notification, we don't accidentally save tabs? Because I asked this because it doesn't look like we clear out the session store closed tabs weak map. Okay. So the way we can answer this is by, this might be hit or miss. The JS debugger might work for us. We're going to try it. Okay, so session store in the update, and then on purge session history. Okay, so run. So we got an update, and the update is it's the final update. So this is on having closed the tab. Wait, what? Oh, wait, what? No, it's not. Oh, yeah, this is right. This is right. I've closed the tab immediately. So we've updated the state, and then do we check to see if the closed tabs does have it? And see, this is the problem. The content process decides to kill us, or we decide to die because the content process is locked up. Or something kills us, and I need to figure out what is up with that. But maybe if I don't use the JS or the ETNS flag, I don't know what kills us there. Like the test timeout or something? What killed us? Aborting on a channel error. So some kind of child abort occurs. Alright. Well, that won't happen if we don't run with multiple processes. So here I want to set a breakpoint there, and then on the on purge session history as well. Okay. And then save close tab data. Yeah. Okay. So let us run this test now. So this should open and close a tab, which it does. And then we save the state. Oh, is that why? Is because on the final message we get rid of the closed tab entry. We got the final message. Oh, we got the final message before. So the reason it passed was that we got the final message before we did the purge, or we sent the purge notification. So this test helper is wrong. What will probably help is if we choose to not... Got the final message. Before we wanted it. And the forget function is supposed to fire this. Like, browser test utils remove tab. Maybe if I don't actually have it remove the tab, don't remove true, because I think that's a thing I can pass to test utils, or browser test utils. Remove tab. Yeah, don't remove. Won't actually remove it. And then if I manually remove it, will that help? If the target frame loader is our frame loader that we want, and the message is final, and we resolve the promise. Okay. So we're gonna not remove the tab like that, but we'll remove it manually. We'll say gbrowser dot remove tab tab, and then we should here, I'm gonna do some logging here because the debugger is not behaving. Purging session history, and then I'm going to also add logging in the update method for this. Dump. Wait, no, I'll do it down here. Dump. Received final message from the closed tab. Alright, so let's build it and test it. Let's see what happens. We'll not use JS Debugger, but we will use --e10s for maximal raciness. So what happens here? We start, and then saw a load of that, and we purge the session history, and then we receive the final message, and then we check to see if we should save the tab state. Dump. Should save. Tab data.state. No. Should save. Alright, let's see what happens. Should save? True, we should save, so we attempt to save it. I think. Saving closed tab data. And then, so we enter this method, I believe. Alright, let's see what happens. Go, 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 go! Drum roll, please. Alright, what happened? Should save true, but we do not enter. We do not enter this method because the index is not. Because the index is -1 because we removed closed tabs equal is what? Oh. We removed something from the closed tabs array of the window. Right. Okay, I know how this works now. Okay, I can explain this. I can explain this now. Let's get rid of our logging, and I'll explain it. So, JavaScript, whenever you're passing objects around, you're passing, like, if you were to store an object in a weak map, it's not copying the object and storing it in the weak map. It's like storing the same object that you might be referring to whenever you, like, if I have an object X and I store it in a weak map, if I refer to that X object, or if I get what I had stored in the map and I manipulate it, it gets manipulated in the other place as well because they're both pointing at the same thing. And that's what this sort of asynchronous stuff depends on, because it's holding on to a collection of basically references to all these closed tab data things, and then whenever the flush comes back, it's just updating them in place. And in the onPurge session history, we clear out the closed windows array, which also clears out everything we know about closed windows, including their closed tabs. Like, we clear out the closed tabs right here. And so in that function where we check to see whether or not here we get the closed tabs array for the window that the browser that just messaged us belongs to, and we check to make sure that the index of that tab is not -1. And if so, then we save it. And if it is, then we got rid of it. And there's even a comment about this. Or wait, no, we wouldn't enter here. We would just not do anything. Which is probably fine, because at this point the tab data has been removed. Even though we have a reference to it, it's been removed from what Session Store could potentially save in the session file. It's not. It's like this little empty pocket that doesn't matter anymore, that nothing else in Session Store cares about. So it's okay that we update it here. It's just not being referred to. So that's how that works. I understand that now. And that's why this passes. And my fix down here, should I be adapting the same solution? Because I asked that because I've sort of come up with a different solution, and maybe I shouldn't have. Instead of maybe there's a better case here. Maybe my closed tabs got destroyed, and that's totally going to work. I want to look at this other case. Right, it won't actually save it. But in the window case, we're waiting to hear back about all these browsers, and we've removed the Windows data from the closed window array synchronously. Okay, and then we might choose to put that window in the closed window array after the fact, because the window becomes more interesting again after the flush. So we need to be able to know whether or not we chose to forget it. I feel like I'm forgetting something though, because we can choose to forget a tab. No, we can choose to close a tab and remove it from the closed tabs array, and then choose to re-enter it once we realize that the tab has become interesting again. Right? If we should save, closed tabs is here. So what if we'd closed the tab and then decided that it wasn't worth saving? On tab close. If it's determine whether the tab contains any information worth saving. Note that there might be pending state changes queued in the child that didn't reach the parent yet. If a tab is emptied before closing, then we might still remove it from the list of closed tabs later. So maybe it's the other case that we care about. If we choose to purge session history after a tab has suddenly become interesting again, what happens? A tab suddenly becomes interesting. I can use some of this stuff to make I should be using this anyway to actually I can probably, instead of putting that up there, I can do that in here after each test finishes. And then for the window helper, well, I'll need one as well. What am I doing? I'm trying to test this other case where, so we have a tab worth remembering. Now I want to flip it around. I create a tab that's not worth remembering, close the tab, but as it's closing, asynchronously it becomes worth remembering. But then we choose to forget that tab. If that tab was forgotten, okay, that's the variation. Forget tab helper. The variation is whether or not it should be worth remembering to begin with, and then like forgettable first and then worth remembering after, or forgettable first and then worth remembering after. That's the difference. Hopefully I've said opposite things just now. Forget tab helper. Create a tab worth remembering. I feel like this is a different thing I'm trying to test. Basically, I want to recreate these tests, async window flushing, but with tab flushing. So maybe I should just do that instead. Okay, I think that's orthogonal to what I'm attempting to solve here, but I should definitely write it down. File a bug to write tests for async tab flushing similar to async window flushing. Or just tag this work onto bug, because I have another, this async window flushing stuff is in bug 1226333. Okay. This works because, so to answer the question, this works because on purge history, we destroy the closed tabs array per window, and the session store update handler for closed tabs checks to see if the tab is in the closed tabs array before choosing whether or not to save it. And again, in the opposite case, what does it do? It might just remove it, or it might just do nothing. So if we have it and we shouldn't save, then we remove it. If we should save and we don't have it, then we save it. That's what goes on. If we should save and we don't have it. If we don't save and we should, or if we shouldn't save it and we have it, then we should remove it. So maybe that will work. If we should save and we don't have it, then we save it. So let me, what was my concern again? We close out a boring tab. It's not saved in the closed tabs array. We purge the session history, which destroys the closed tabs. And then the tab becomes interesting, but we want to make sure we don't save it. We check to see whether the tab data, in this case, should save will be true, and then the closed tabs will also be an array that doesn't have anything in it. So the index will be -1, and then we will save the closed tab data in it, but the closed tab array has been erased. Like, it's been decoupled. It's basically pointing to again, it's that pocket of memory that no one cares about anymore. So that does work properly, and that's good. And I want to see if I can make Windows, I feel like I'm going in circles here. I want to make Windows operate on the same principle, because if we can be consistent, that's good. So the way that works is, I don't think we can do that, because we have, I don't think we can, I think we have to use the solution we're currently using. If we don't have it, we should save it. We create a new array. Because the closed Windows array is global for the session, but the closed tabs array is per window. And if the window gets forgotten, then the closed tabs array, even if it's being referenced by something else, gets completely overwritten. It like we create a new array, and we don't get that same thing. Okay. I have to write this down. Okay. So we can't use the same model for closed windows here because closed windows are global and closed tabs are per window, meaning that if the closed tab ends up being interesting after having been purged, even if it gets added to the closed tabs array for the window got a new closed tabs array. So we're just inserting the tab data into something that nobody cares about. Because closed windows is global. Now, I guess we could take advantage of it, actually. Tab state flusher. Closed windows. Maybe save closed window. Instead of using this dot underscore closed windows directly, we could pass in a reference to it, because if on purge session history, what do we do? We overwrite it with a new array. Okay, so we could use the same mechanism, and maybe that's better. I think I would prefer that, actually, as opposed to like having the state thing. Okay, let's try this experiment. Did I get rid of all my logging? Not really. I've got one more. Forget purge tab. Okay, so what I have here, I'm going to save. Wait a second, I updated the test as well as session store, so I'm going to commit update test, but I'm going to just save the test stuff, forget async closings, and then the rest of the stuff, the session store. So this is the actual potential fix. Potential fix, I'll call it for now. Excuse me. So now, instead of doing that potential fix, I'm going to try a different potential fix, which is the one I was just thinking of, where instead of having session store in maybe save closed window, should take a reference to let closed windows equal this dot closed windows. Maybe save closed windows. Closed windows. And then down here, closed windows. So that instead of directly saving it in the dot this dot closed windows array, we use this one. Oh. Okay. Closed windows. So if this works, if that's right, and is it anyone else call this? Maybe save closed windows? No. Okay, so I'm going to build. And I'm pretty sure that's going to work. And when we choose to forget closed window. We remove the closed window from the array. Ah, this will fail. This one will fail. So I have a feeling, so prediction, we're going to see one passing test, or like all the tests except one will pass here, is my prediction. Yeah, one failure. Now, how does that work for getting closed tabs? We remove the closed tab data from the array. Ah. I see. So when we choose to forget a closed window, what would be best is if we could somehow get all of the permanent keys for the closed the tabs in that window, and then remove them from the closed window tabs. The closed window tabs map. I think. This is so complicated. Maybe this is what you get when you have async stuff. A window doesn't have a permanent key. Shoot. So we might have to go back to the original plan. The original fix, which is that global state thing. Because the closed windows array, we need a way of like decorating it. The window's been forgotten. How do we know? How do we remember that we've forgotten something? Whoa, pretty meta. How do we remember that we forgot something? Let's see. What's the best way to remember that we forgot the window, other than the set? You could decorate the window data with should be forgotten. It's not amazing. Could be error prone. When we choose to forget the closed window, I suppose whenever we could create a new array. Like, if we want to keep using this pattern, we have another choice, which is in forget closed window. We could like remove the closed window from the array and then overwrite what closed windows is with a new array that has all the same items in it. But that sounds dangerous, because what if we had multiple windows closing at the same time? We would have... Oh, I think the weak set is going to be the simplest solution, to be completely honest. I think our potential fix is the right one. But I should write down why. As global, it's not as simple. Technically, we could pass a reference to the closed windows array to maybe save closed window, and on purge history, when that closed windows array is overwritten, the old reference will have stuff saved to it without mattering much. That's how tab closing works. However, for the window, forget window case, we can't really use this, or if we do, it feels shaky. For example, forget closed window could also overwrite the closed windows array with a new array containing all items except for the window data we've forgotten. And if the update attempt, and if the maybe save closed window on after the flush chooses to insert the window after finding it suddenly interesting, it insert it into an array that no longer is referred to by session store closed windows. This feels error prone, though. Suppose we have two windows closed simultaneously, then if we close two windows simultaneously, then we what? Suppose we have two windows closed simultaneously, then we will, and then choose to forget one. Forget one while flushing. We change the closed windows array reference for both, except for the second window that we didn't forget. We'll actually update the right thing because the arrays are holding references to the same objects. So technically, that'd work. Maybe that's not so bad. But it's weird, and it's hard to understand. It's too clever. Maybe we should be changing the closed tab mechanism to more match what I'm currently doing with this set. All right. Well, let's put this up for review and see what Bill thinks. So I'm gonna hist edit here. We're gonna update the test. We're gonna fold that fix into here, and then I'm gonna update the message here. Regression tests. I'm going to ask Bill M. Have session store keep a list of window data that it should not forget. That window that might be saved during a flush. This helps us keep track of what windows we've chosen to forget. And helps us avoid the problem of accidentally saving a window we've chosen to forget. And I need to question mark Bill M. And I should probably run the rest of the session store tests as well before I push this up for review. Man, that took some thinking. Which is why I think that the set solution is the best, because it required less thinking. It was the more obvious solution. And figuring out how the tab forgetting works was not as simple. I'm also going to rebase this on top of whatever I had that's not this other thing. What was it? What was that commit? This one. Okay, so I want to rebase ours 314244 to tip onto that. I'm going to rebuild, run the tests, and then post for review. Is my plan. Woo! Folks, that was tricky. That took longer than I thought, thinking through that. Yeah, I think this is still worth doing, just to make sure that this continues to work. So this does have follow-ups to file. What else did I want to do today? So we've got potential fixes for this. Oh, we've got this other thing. So now that we've got this set of patches where, like, we don't do synchronous tab flushing when we close tabs. I've got a patch that stops us from doing async or sync tab flushing when we close windows, and that's landed. And we also now have this thing where we don't necessarily need to do async flushes or sync flushes whenever we close the application. That patch, like I said earlier, is still under review. But assuming that that lands, then all of the sync flushing stuff can go away. And that's good, and means that we can get rid of the sync infrastructure, the sync messaging infrastructure between the session store and content session store, which is really good. That helps us simplify things a great deal. And I wrote a patch to do that yesterday, but it turns out that I can do more. There's more simplification we can do, because the whole flushing with IDs thing, no longer necessary. The whole reason we had IDs being passed back and forth when flushing is because we had this case where you could request a flush from asynchronously from the parent, and then while you're waiting, synchronously request a flush from the parent, and then this would come back first, and then this one would come back second, potentially. And this old data might overwrite newer data, and so we had to use these IDs to make sure that, like, only newer data could overwrite our information. Like, we could only be invalidated by newer information as opposed to old data that lost a race or lost it didn't come in fast enough. So we can actually get rid of all that infrastructure because it's no longer possible to synchronously message the child for a flush of its messages. So we don't need those IDs anymore. We know that they're going to come back in the right order. Because that's how messaging works. It's guaranteed in order. Okay, so let's make sure that our tests still pass. Forget. All right, our test pass, and they pass without eTNS, and then we'll run the whole test suite just to make sure that we haven't broken anything horribly. Now, before I forget, there was something else I wanted to think of, or I was thinking of, savable closed window data. Where do we delete this stuff? In a couple of places. We delete it when we clean up the window. Yeah, anytime. Okay, we're doing the right thing. Okay. So let's run the whole tests, the whole suite of tests. This is going to take about a minute. It takes about a minute to run all the session store tests. In the meantime, what can we do? Unfortunately, these tests, while they're running, they'll pause if I move focus away from the browser, which isn't great. I wish I could still use my computer while running these tests. For some tests, you can do that. You can actually switch focus and do other things while it's running in the background. But a lot of these tests for Session Store wait for, like, if they notice that the focus has shifted, they'll just wait until the focus comes back, which is a pain. And I don't know why that is, actually. Might not necessarily, like, be necessary. Might not necessarily be necessary, if you know what I mean.
Hey, what happened?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, while we're waiting for this to finish, I'll tell you right now, and I'll say it again at the end of the episode, that I'm going to be away next week. There is an event for paid staff and certain contributors, and so I'm going to be in Orlando next week. So there will be no live Joy of Coding episode next week. However, I do plan on doing a special Mozlando, is what we're calling our Orlando meetup. Special Mozlando episode where I will pre-record it. Like, I'll be in Orlando and I'll record something. I won't have my full rig, so I won't have the green screen. It might be kind of like old school looking. And you might see, because I won't have two monitors, I won't be able to like monitor. It'll be like very old school first episode of Joy of Coding sort of thing. But you'll see what it's like whenever I work remotely. Who knows what I'll be working on? Maybe I'll have learned some cool new tricks from smart people at Mozlando. Maybe I'll even be doing it live in front of an audience. Who knows? Like a room full of people. I have no idea. Oh! Failed tests. Forgot. Hey, that's interesting. Should not have stored the forgotten tabs. So these tabs, in the non-eTNS case, we should have forgotten the closed tabs. So it can go wrong. We have a race of some kind. Forget async. Should have forgotten the closed tabs. And that's in test. Test forget closed tab. That's down here in 105. We choose to forget the closed tab. Now why would that be? Got 9, expected 10. Should not have stored. Oh. Should not have stored the forgotten closed tab. So the initial closed tab count got 0, expected 9. Got 0, expected 9. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, after a sessions, like a purge session history, that will reset. Okay. My tests are a little brittle. They're a little brittle. Also, I shouldn't hold on to the initial tab count in this test. That's not necessary. So, and the reason my tests are a little bit brittle is because they get an initial count, and then if we purge, if like other tabs have closed in the background, maybe we can always start the test by purging the session history. Forget any previously closed tabs. Or how about like, can we forget all closed tabs somehow? Is that CSI session store? Does it give us powers to do that? Alright, closed. So we close tabs from other tests. Okay. Tests that may have run in the same session. Is initial closed tab count 0. We should have 0 closed tabs being stored. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing down here. Previously closed windows is initial closed win count 0. Should not have, we should have 0 closed windows being stored. Then we open a window. And then we can just like use 0 in this case. We can just like here's what we'll do. Initial closed window, we won't care. And then same for initial closed tab count. We'll whoop, 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 whoop. So it should be 0, and then this should be 0 and 0. Alright, let's see if that works. Well, first now I'll run the test just to make sure it passes by itself in isolation. I have to focus the window, of course. Okay, so it does pass in isolation. And so let's run the whole suite again. Hooray! Here we go. Do 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 do. And someone pinged me in an IRC channel. But because I don't want to change focus, I'm going to check it on my phone. I'm living in the future. I'm checking IRC on my phone. Just trying to figure out if the bar prop scroll bar thing is working. So McCrate and Smaug are having a conversation. Smaug. How the setup works for dock shells in ETNS for Zool windows versus in non-ETNS. Is there a Chrome process dock shell that is separate, but in non-ETNS there would be just one of something? It's content dock shells, children. There can be several Chrome dock shells, say if you have a sidebar open which has bookmarks. But in non-ETNS there would be just one. In the simple case of a window that just has a single document in it, there is just process boundary between Chrome content dock shells normally. There is Chrome dock shell which has process loaded. How this bar props scroll bar thing is working. See why it doesn't work? Ah, bar props. Why it does work without ETNS. Okay, so McCrate has a question. I can hopefully answer him later once I get my computer back. Once these tests are done running. Ah, and here he's pinging me. Have you ever been looking at the ETNS bar? Okay. Hey, test passed. Great. Now with --ETNS, maybe I can have this conversation at the same time. Hey, mind if I live stream this conversation? I'm live hacking. If not, can I ping you after? Alright, cool. Alright. Yep. So here's the conversation. Hey, so yeah, I remember working on toolbar visibility stuff for ETNS. Test toolbar visibility. There was a bug that I was mentoring. Bug tests. Yeah, here we go. I mentored a contributor who wrote tests for it in Bug. The work I did to get those things working properly with ETNS was in Bug 1194897. The Chrome flags, I believe, are what dictate the values that are passed, that are exposed through the bar props. I think, so I see why it doesn't work with ETNS, but I'm not sure why it does work without ETNS. Alright, thanks. I can look into that. I'm looking at test window bar, which seems to have a similar thing, but the scroll bars thing fails with ETNS. So let's look at this test. DXR, this test. So scroll bars, yes. So the window gets open with scroll bars equals no, but it returns true in the ETNS case. Content parent.cpp. So how did we fix this before? Scroll bar. Scroll bar, scroll bar, scroll bar. We choose scroll bars equals no. But in this case, scroll bars is true. Scroll bars is visible, expected false, but is true. And I'm not sure what the matter is. So is the patch that is supposed to set the Chrome flags properly for the Chrome flags. The parent window Chrome flags contain information that the content process needs, for example, whether or not those stashed or personalized are set to be visible. We get the tree owner, we get the interface, and then we anyways, it looks like you aren't actively working on this. I'll just read through the bugs you gave me. Thanks. It'd be worth checking to see set a breakpoint there when the window is opened without the scroll bar, and then check the value of the Chrome flags that are retrieved from the NSI web browser Chrome. Browser Chrome.adl. There. Scroll bars. Let me know if you have any additional questions and I can poke at it. Alright. Conversation done. Moving on. We wanted to run these tests with eTNS. So I'm going to do that now. And man, that slowed us down. All that business. I'm going to recommit. I'm going to post up for review. And then that might be the episode. I thought I'd get more done. Story of my life. Sometimes things get in the way. Alternatively, I could just keep streaming. Let me see. Let me check my calendar. We could make this an extra long episode to account for the fact that I'm not going to be here live next week. Yeah, how about we extend it by half an hour? So I'm going to keep going until 3 is my plan. And we'll see how much we can see if we can take a bite out of these other bugs. Waiting for the test to pass. So the next one I want to work on is that sync handler business. We can get rid of the ID thing. All of the sync flushing stuff, infrastructure can just get torn right out. And that's good news. That's also really good because whenever a new tab is opened remotely, we send a sync message from it up to the parent saying, hey, here's my sync handler, Kapow, because we use Kapows to do it. And we can get rid of that sync message, which is good, because the fewer sync messages we can send from the content process, especially during tab switch or tab open, the smoother the browser gets. So that's good. And apparently this will just greatly simplify things in general. So I'm looking forward to it. Cleanup is good. This is like a textbook example, a textbook example of us transitioning from the old mechanism, which was sync, to like writing all of the support and like sort of using this crutch for sync tab synchronization, sync tab flushing, but then transitioning away from all the sync tab flushing to use something new, the async tab flushing, and making sure all the tests work and stuff. And now finally we can get rid of the old infrastructure that we had set up. And that's really, really nice. We did this nice sort of move. So our tests are passing. I think I patched the tests a little bit to make sure that they all passed, so I'm going to update the test patch 246, and then amend and evolve to replay. Okay. Uh, 3 and 4, 249 to tip to review. Now I'll mention to my reviewer that like I had considered the possibility of doing the closed Windows like reference swap, but that I felt like it was harder to follow. And we'll see what my reviewer thinks. We can sort of bat it around. Submitting 2 change sets for review. Yay. No, let's not publish right away so I can quickly inspect them. Right. So this actually will end up depending on the window async flush test because it's using this thing I added for those tests. So I'm going to have to set that dependency up. All right. And then here is the solution to the test. Savable closed window data. So let's publish it. Let's do it. Okay, so let's set up the dependencies correctly. So we need window flushing, so that's this bug. This. The tests depend on the, what was it called? No auto updates. Pref I added in bug. Whoop. Copy. So added dependency. So this bug is actually, this is blocked. Blocked by another bug. So blocked on bug because we depend on. So get bug 1226333 in the tree. To do follow-ups. Okay. Uh, hey, Bill M. So, I'm not the biggest fan. I'm not too jazzed about putting yet another global weak set on weak foo map slash set on the session store object, but this felt simplest. I considered using the same model, forget model, that we use for tabs, where we end up just we end up shit. Where we end up just where we end up removing the browser permanent key from the closed tabs set as well for the forget window, forget closed tab case. Forget closed tab. Or where we end up overwriting the reference, or end up changing the Windows closed tabs array reference so that any attempts to reinsert don't matter. Array reference for the purge history case. But that seemed really confusing. This feels more straightforward to hold a set of the data that we hope to keep, hope to maybe save. I'm also wondering if we want to transition the tab closing model to fit this, as it also has the tab close. The way that tab close works here feels a bit hard to reason about. Anyhow, let me know what you think. I wouldn't say was a bit hard to. The tab close works here wasn't immediately obvious for the purge history case. That's the way that forgetting tabs on. That's the way that forgetting tabs works here. Wasn't immediately obvious. Let me know what you think. All right. Rippadoo. That is waiting on review. Hooray! So blocked on review as well. Now, this thing that we're blocked on here is actually these other tests that I've written, which are all written, but they fail intermittently, and I didn't know why. And I've recently pushed them to try with some logging, and maybe some inane logging is what I called it. So maybe we can make that more obvious, what's going on. We can fix the problem, and then maybe we could land this, and then we won't be blocked on the other bug. So maybe let's check this out first before we do that sync handler business that I was planning on doing. So the unexpected fail occurs here. And where does the test start? where do we care about? I think I want to take a look at my inane logging. I added inane logging around the test where we say, okay, loading example.com. That's where we want to start. Okay. So the problem with this test is that we load example.com, we tell the browser load it, then the browser says, I'm done loading it, then we flush the history from that remote browser, and then it looks like the browser's at about blank in some cases. It's a very rare case, but we hit it. It's a rare case on opt builds, but for debug builds, we seem to hit it frequently. Which, like here, I've got what, eight or nine retriggers of this test, and I hit it 3 times, which isn't amazing. I don't like introducing oranges. So, what's going wrong? So we load in our test. We load example.com, and then we see the load of example.com. And then we see that the history length is good, so that's good. Serialized entry. Tab state has been flushed. Where does that occur? Has been flushed. Aha! So for some reason, there's this little race, I think, and then the history length is 0. History length equals 0. URI is about blank. On frame tree collected. Collected, then we push history into the message queue. So we put the serialized entry into the message queue. Serialized entry is here. And then somehow data entry's length equals 0, even though we've pushed it in here. Ensure the index isn't out of bounds if so data.index. What is that? What would that do if, oh, it's an object. And trees. So somehow we push it, and then do we somehow re-enter this and the entries is 0? Or do we do this immediately after? Then the pushing history into the message queue. And the history length is 0. Pushing history into the message queue. And then we do the collection, and that's when the history length is 0. Weird. Apparently example.com. So history length is greater than 0. Then we flush. Tab state has been flushed. Flush. And when we flush, what happens? Hang on, let me update the tree to my tests. So when we flush, any messages that have been queued go out. I feel like this is supposed to be queued. So maybe I need to do this again, but with slightly additional some slight additional logging where in content, where is it? What file is this? Session history? .jsm. Final data. Data being queued to the parent is JSON stringify. Data, no. Okay. And then how can this be true? Like, serialized entry, data.index. How can the history of the entry's length be 0 if we've pushed something into the serialize the entry? Dump for loop exited. Data entries dot length is data entries dot length. Else dump saw that we had some entries. Okay, so not fully solved this mystery yet, but we're closer. This mystery is a little bit closer, so I'm going to push again to try. Hopefully I'll have a message or a solution or an explanation by the end of the day, because I'd really like to get these tests landed. Ah. There we go. I keep forgetting I have home and end buttons on this keyboard. I don't normally use this keyboard whenever I'm hacking at my desk. I have a special keyboard, a special setup, a special selection of things whenever I'm live streaming. Haven't played a sound in a while.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I can't do my work.
Okay, so we've got this try build is cooking, and now more logging now. Okay, so we'll wait for that one. We're blocked on a try build here. So now let's go back to this sync handler thing that we can now get rid of. Remove sync handler was the name of the game. Right, so let's build it while we're waiting for it to build. We can take a look at what Tim said. Meanwhile, I'm going to point this app tab at my new tribe push. So Tim says we don't need to keep this and can get rid of the latest message ID. We don't actually need this with the message queue simplifications, and we can remove the check and update now too. Just always call tab state cache update directly. Message queue flush can be fully removed. Nothing uses it anymore. Message queue send doesn't need the sync and ID options anymore. It should never use send RPC message. The whole message queue be simplified, as we don't need to account for sync flushes while we're waiting for an async update message to arrive. We don't need the last update anymore. So there's like a lot of stuff we can tear out here, and let's just do it. Let's do it. Let's just tear stuff out. I like that. There's nothing more that I love getting rid of unnecessary code. It's great. It's great stuff. So we don't need last updated anymore, because we don't need IDs anymore. Okay, so we can get rid of that. Don't need that. So last updated, we don't need that. We're not ever doing sync messaging. Start ID. We don't need the... Do we need a flush ID? Yeah, we'll probably need the flush ID, but we don't need the ID. Start ID. Wait. What is this dot underscore ID? That was what was up there. Yeah, okay. I think we still need to have the flush ID, however. We'll never use send RPC message. So we're going to use send async message. CLS, and we remove it from the map. So there's no need for IDs there. Send async message. We don't need the IDs. And we don't need that anymore. That's great. Flush. Flush ID. Message queue. Send. Message queue. Flush. Who calls this? Oh. This can be removed. Yeah, he's saying we don't even need that anymore. Great, nothing uses it. Great, so now if we get rid of the stuff that I had added in tab state.jsm where we no longer need browser ready because we don't need the IDs anymore. We don't need the latest message ID because we don't care about IDs anymore. Don't need the browser ready message. Update. We don't need that. We'll just do that. Perfect. And then I had originally added some stuff, some gunk to send a message whenever we were ready, but we don't need that anymore. So session store ready is not necessary. Store ready. Don't need that. Don't need it. Oh, I love getting rid of stuff. Don't need it. And we don't need that because we removed it. And then tab state dot update. A message dot data. Oh, yeah. I think we want to change something back. We want to date that. Yes. Does that make sense? Or maybe it makes more sense to update Anytime we do tab state update, where are all the places we do that? Tab state update. It's the one place. Data dot data. It's not amazing. You know what? Let's just keep it the way it was with this weird thing. Alright. And that, I think, will actually be all of Tim's fix-ups. Don't need that anymore. Get rid of a bunch of stuff. Update, browser ready. Alright, let's try it out. And the way we'll try it out is we'll run the tests. Browser, components, session store, test, run. Let's see if anything explodes. Something exploded. Last updated is not defined, so I removed a reference, but not all of them. 655 in content dash session store. So let's look for, aha, key. Do I even need to do any of this stuff anymore? Might be able to just get away with that. Is anything else using last updated? Nope. Alright, let's check it out. No, doesn't like it because of an exception was thrown. Doc2 get element by What? Why would that be failing? Let's run this test in isolation, see if we can figure out why. Is there any error that we need to know about? Except for this one, a promise chain. Promise chain. We wait for the tab to load and then wait for the tab to be restored. But then get element by ID is null. So the storage test item. So is promise tab restored running at the wrong time? What is that? I think we're just waiting for the SS tab restored event. Let's see if we can run a well, hold on a second. I'm going to run it with the JS debugger. I'm also going to check to make sure that the content... Oh wait, no. I'm running this without E10S, so there shouldn't be... Console error. Content restore. This progress listener is null. Content restore 255. What? What is going on? What did I break? Let's use a simpler test, maybe. One that I understand more. Async flushes. Browser async flushes. Okay, so this fails tremendously. Good. Why? So let's boil this down, if we can, to a single test case. And what does this test do? It adds a tab. Then we wait for the tab to be loaded. Then we flush any queued messages. And then we make sure that there's a single entry, but we get 0 instead of 1. So is this flush not occurring? Have we somehow, like, broken the ability to flush? Is session store update looking for an ID? Is that what it is? If flush ID, if add ID. No, it's not looking for an ID. It's looking for a flush ID. Tricky. All right. Let's run it again. Right. Got 0. So we never get any information. We're never... Do we ever call this send function? Do we ever actually flush? Flush. Because that would explain it. This flush data. And then message queue send. Ah, I got rid of a bunch of stuff. That's what happened. We're just passing up empty data. I was too vigorous. I have to understand this block a bit better. So we go through, what is this last updated business all about? A map holding the ID value for every type of data back when it was pushed onto the queue. You use those IDs to find the data to send and flush. So if there is no data for the given key anymore because the parent process has already marked it as received, values data get key. For let this data has key, we don't worry about it. This dot underscore data, is that what we want to send? Underscore data is a map. So for let key fun of this dot data. Let value equals func. Key is telemetry value, else data key equals value. Okay, that might be better. I think that is what the problem was. We were just sending like empty. Oh no, don't want to do that. Want to build. We were just sending up empty data every time we flushed, so no wonder we broke everything. Hey, that's a great way of knowing whether your stuff works. Writing tests. Hey, test pass now. That's good. So let's uncomment these tests and run the whole suite, or run the whole file, and then we'll run the whole suite, and then we'll run it with E10S, and then we'll put it up for review, and then I'm going to call it a day. I'm going to commit and push it up for review, and we're going to call it a day. Oh. What? Tool browse needs to be remote in order to crash. Oh, this test is only supposed to be run with crash. Yeah, this test is only supposed to be run with E10S. Funny thing, if you run a folder, a Moki test browser folder, it'll do the right thing of choosing which tests should be run and not based on the E10S flags and stuff. But if you say, actually, here, run this test, like mock test this, it will run it regardless of whether or not that test has been decorated to run with E10S or not. Rolls eyes. Okay, so let's run the whole flippin' directory without E10S. Hey, I haven't dropped a single frame apparently. That's pretty good. Good job, computer. Good job, network. So, anything else to talk about? Oh, I can talk about some other thing that I'm going to work on today. Maybe you'll be interested in it. It's in the agenda. I was going to get there if, like, I had the opportunity to get there. I didn't get there in time, but there's this performance tool that the B2G folk have been working on. They've been using it for like a year or so. It's called Task Tracer. I don't fully understand what it does, but I have a feeling it's for mapping when events are triggered in one process and then serviced in another, and like basically like looking at the life of an event that gets dispatched either in process or to another process, and like the round trip. And that sounds useful, like as a profiling tool to see what goes on whenever an event gets fired until whenever it's done firing. And apparently it's got like you get profiler output that you put into this tool, and then it creates a graph that shows you like it went like this, burp, 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 and like what happened in between and stuff. And so I've been asked to try and make it work with desktop with E10S. It's already in the tree, but it doesn't look like it was designed to work on desktop. Like the code was written for B2G, Gonk, phones, basically. So I have to make it work with like things other than glib, C, or wait, I have to make it work with Clang, or I gotta make it build, basically. It's not building for me, and I don't know why. Fail. Send message not defined. What you talking about, Willis? Aha, and we need to do this. Send message. Ah, boy. Ah, boy. I'm not going to hold you here, so I'm going to end this episode. Well, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. Let's just wait for this whole directory of tests to pass with non-E10S. If it passes, I'm going to cap the episode right there. just assume all went well. You can follow along in the bug for getting rid of the sync handler stuff if you want to hear about the gory details and like whether or not this goes horribly wrong, or just read the notes. That'd probably be better because I'll probably write a lot of swear words and stuff. And then yeah, I hope you have a good week. Task Tracer. I was talking about Task Tracer. That's what I'll probably work on after the stream is done. You can follow along in the notes. Gone next week, but I'll hopefully do a quick video. It might not be quick. Maybe it'll be an hour, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. Who knows? What else? Oh, so we've really started peeling into this performance work for E10S. That's the other thing. Like Task Tracer and getting rid of the sync handler, that's performance work. It's not in the M8 list. We have transitioned over. There are still a number of M8s that are needing to be fixed, but that list is rapidly shrinking, and we need to start working on the performance work, the performance bugs. So that's what we're doing right now. Hopefully Task Tracer helps make things better. I've got a couple of other performance bugs to work on, some mysterious ones. So over the next couple of weeks, you'll probably see me doing more performance work. So we'll be looking at profiles. We're going to be building very simple profilers in the event that what we need is very specific, because I've had to do that before. And by building a profiler, I basically mean like instrumenting certain functions to record how long they take on enter and on exit. And I think a lot of profile interpretation. What does this profile mean? What more information do I need? Running Talos tests. Lots to do. It's going to be a blast. We're going to have a great time. Let's see. Are we almost done? I think we're almost done. Drum roll. Hey, we're done. We did it. Yay, the test passed. So hopefully they'll pass for E10S as well, but follow along in the notes for the sync handler thing to be sure. Anything else I wanted to mention? Yeah, we did this. We did this. Still waiting on try-build here. This should not be indented. Didn't get here for the Task Tracer thing. So you can subscribe to The Joy of Coding via iTunes or Kodi or any of the other like web streaming subscribe tools out there. There's a link here in the agenda that you can point your client to, and it will do all the right things, hopefully. So there's that. Sean Martel, brilliant art designer fella here at Mozilla. I don't actually know what his title is, but he basically is behind a bunch of the amazing art that Mozilla does, signage, logos, icons, etc. He's behind a good chunk of it, including the Firefox logo itself. If that interests you, episode 1 of The Joy of Illustrating, which is his show, talks about the Firefox logo and deconstructs it and shows you how it came to be and what it means and what improvements have been made to it over time. And that's, I think, it. If you are a Mozillian who wants to get a live hacking show set up, and I already know that at least one of you has contacted me in the past week about doing so, and that's great. Let's get some more shows. Come talk to me. Come talk to myself or Richard in Hash Live Hacking, or come find me in person if you're in the Toronto office or in the Toronto area, or ping me in IRC, send me email, whatever. Talk to me in Orlando if you're going to be in Orlando, and let's get you a show set up for great, better, good. And that would be awesome because we need more shows. I think I'm going to call it. Thank you so much for watching episode 37 of The Joy of Coding. A reminder, next week I am not going to be doing a live stream. It's going to be a pre-recorded thing that I'll probably put up not long after, either before, after, I don't know when it'll be put up, but sometime around when The Joy of Coding normally airs. And then I'll be back the week after. And then it gets a little tricky because of winter holidays and stuff. But we'll work it out. Don't worry. Thank you so much. And switching to my screen with camera. Yeah. All right. Episode 37. We're done here. See you soon. Bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.